maybe we have a bit of an introduction of yourselves, because I know a lot of people will know yourself and Levi, and some of myself as well. But Melissa, maybe just in like 20, 30 seconds, maybe share a bit of info about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, so I develop brands and websites pretty much exclusively for photographers. I've been doing that for about 5 years, just working with photographers, and before that for probably another 5 years working as a graphic designer and brand specialist. And I just absolutely think it's the industry that excites me the most. I love photography myself, and I never get bored of finding new ways to present other people's photography. So for me, it's been a real pleasure to become kind of more deeply involved with the industry over the last few years. In the last year, some of you might have seen me putting out work under a new name, which is the Design Space, which I've absolutely loved doing, and that's my kind of one-stop shop for photographers who need new brands and websites. And it's really allowed me to work with such a wide range of people, so many more people, and we've had great fun putting together the designs and kind of expanded the team so that we can kind of work with more people. And yeah, one thing I'm kind of really getting into at the moment is also kind of working to put out lots of information on my blog. So hopefully today and going forward we can catch up regularly, and I can give you all my information, all of my expertise. And yeah, so I'm happy to answer any questions about web design, about branding, about strategy in terms of your rolling out your identity across your business, anything like that. I'm your woman for that.
Okay, great. And obviously you've done a lot of custom website designs, but then you've kind of moved obviously to what you're doing at the Design Space. Do you think that that's a trend in general in regards to people moving to more template designs and looking to sort of do that in a different way from previously?
I think custom still has its place. I think what I found hard was I worked with a couple of clients who absolutely loved the custom experience, but even so, 3 or 4 years down the line, they found their style had evolved and the way they were shooting had completely changed. So, I'm working with those clients again for kind of a bit of a refresh. And I kind of got to the point where I thought, what, people who are just starting out probably need a bit more financial freedom to swap between designs as their business evolves. So that's where the Design Space came from. So now I tend to kind of do custom work with people who are kind of a good 5 years into their business. They've got a really good solid sense of their brand, their photography style, and the Design Space is, perfect for people who kind of want everything to look really slick and matching across all platforms, but, really don't want to spend the money for a custom design. I totally get that, and I think that's definitely a trend going forward where people want the freedom to switch between platforms and try things out and find out what works for them.
Okay, great, awesome. So thank you so much, and we're going to meet Levi Wiggins all the way to Nashville, Tennessee. Is that right?
That's right.
And
Tennessee, America.
Yeah, so off to the States, over the pond. So Levi, do you want to just share a wee bit of info about yourself and kind of your background and what your area of expertise is?
And I don't want to take away at all from Melissa, because she's very diverse in what she does. I'm very narrow. She does brand, identity, this stuff. I do words, really just words. And in the photography industry, I'm a writer. My wife and I are Harder+Wiggins. She's making coffee. And we do, let's see, it opened, I don't know if that off. Ooh, just opened something. How exciting. So I'm a writer. I work with photographers on their blogs. I work with brands on their blogs, on their About Us page, content, even client communications. I've been working with Engage on the way we say what needs said to communicate the messages that we're trying to get to our clients. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Levi. Well, in regards to myself, some of you will have heard of myself. My name is Donal Doherty, and I guess my background is primarily kind of marketing and PR, and I've both done that within the photography industry, but also within my own business as well. So we're excited, the three of us, to help as many people here today on this Google Hangout as possible. Maybe what I can do is have a look through the page, and you guys can post your questions within the event page on Facebook. If you search for Ask the Experts, Engage Hangout, please feel free to put any questions in there. But we'll start off and we'll have a look at some of the questions that we do have. First of all, Lynette Brown, she had several questions for us, and some of you may know Lynette. Lynette said, I often think watermarking every image on your website upsets the flow of viewing the images. What would be your thoughts there, Melissa, in regards to watermarking of images on your site?
I often think people use watermarks to take away from an image, and by that I mean they're trying to take away access or the ability of people to print it. So I personally don't feel it's got a place in a gallery on a website. I think if you feel very strongly about it and you've had bad experiences, I think it's probably okay to do it on your blog, but I don't do it on mine. And yeah, I kind of think unless the watermark adds something to the image rather than take something away, I think I'm just not a big fan. And I think, you know, these days people can screenshot, they're going to do all sorts of things. You know, people know how to manipulate the internet and take pictures. So as long as you're, you know, okay with that, and I think we all have to be, you know, I'm not a fan of watermarking throughout a website at all.
And that's for the blog as well, would you guys say, or Levi, you have something to say on that?
Yeah, I would say, first off, watermarking images is very 2002. It's dated practice. In today's digital economy, your one photograph that gets stolen and used by, I don't know, a tanning salon in Dubai illegally is not going to ruin your business. It's not going to hurt you. And if it had your watermark on it, you can't Google a watermark. So unless someone's clever enough to know how to do a Google image search, I say let it go. As a photographer, you're looking for the next client. That's your job. And if someone steals work from a previous client and uses it to promote their business, it's really not going to hurt you. They wouldn't have paid to license your photograph anyway, because that's not what the internet is doing. Like, people who steal photos to use things, it's not like they're going to pay you anyway. So, yeah, I'm of the mindset that says, dude, let it go. You've got more important things to do. If Time Magazine uses one of your photos and it's not watermarked, maybe call their legal department.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there's a really good tool, actually, Blog Stomp, which is really good for actually sticking that logo on there if you do decide that you want to do that. And I definitely watermark. I think I've watermarked a lot of images on the blog, not on the website, because I think that definitely doesn't look good. But sometimes on the blog, especially if they're being shared to Pinterest. Yeah.
Right.
Also,
you can articulate a branding and a business reason why your logo or watermark needs to be there. Do it. But if you're doing it because you're grabby and you want to protect your images from being stolen, it's not going to work anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think as well, like, people will get to know your images. If you're good at what you do, people will say, yes, that's a Donal Doherty image, you know. But at the same time, you know, sometimes I think watermarks can be so ugly, and they really sometimes ruin the image in a sense as well. So sometimes I think I think that can be a bit of a bummer. What are look, we've got a few questions here, so we can come back to a few of the ones that we have on here. Actually, we have another few questions actually from Lynette. We'll start here. So Lynette says, how do you really create engagement on your blog posts? So Levi, I know you're a big kind of blog expert. Maybe you could answer that.
So this is relating specifically to a photographer. Every blog post, there are two kinds of blog posts, right? They're the ones that are going out to other photographers and the ones that are going out just to clients. So let's focus on the client side. To create engagement on a blog post, you're going to create a post that first and foremost engages that client that you're posting about. You did a shoot for a client, you're sharing their photographs, you want to talk about them, talk about what you did, why you love them, who they are, why it mattered, and share photographs that will encourage them to then share your blog post, because they're the first people who are going to care at all about that post. Secondly, to get other people to engage with that blog post, and the more important kinds of engagement are coming, looking, clicking. The secondary is commenting on blog posts, which is kind of becoming a lost art. There's not a lot of commenting going on in photographers' blogs. More often, we just want a client to see it, know who we are, and contact us. So that engagement, you're going to use your search engine optimization tools. You're going to drive people to that blog. So if they're going to a particular venue and they Google Big Brown Castle Wedding, then you're going to show up because you blogged about a Big Brown Castle Wedding that you shot at that venue. And that's going to bring people to that, and that's going to bring people to you. Melissa, help me out.
Yeah, I always worry that I don't actually know the definitive answer to this, but I think a lot of photographers get into the habit of just blogging the work they've done. They're like, here's a beautiful wedding I shot here, and the problem is with that, or here's a family, you know, people have a kind of saturation level for how much they want to look at pictures of other people that aren't them. So whilst that person loves that blog post because it's about them, they've already paid you. You've got their money. You know, you're then writing for an audience of one who you've already worked with. So I kind of really encourage people to write a much broader spectrum of posts, which, you know, even once they've used your services, are going to keep them coming back and reading. And I talked to Kat from Rock and Roll Bride about this, who's kind of, you know, the definitive expert on writing wedding photography blogs, and she said, I just have to accept that my blog readers, I have a life cycle with them of about 1.5 to 2 years, and then they're gone. She said, but I mix in things like hair tutorials and how do you cope with, you know, your first 3 years of marriage and things like that to keep them coming back. So as a wedding photographer or a family photographer, I think you have to think really hard about what's going to create longer term engagement, and it's not just showing people more posts of other people that aren't them. And I think we all get a bit lazy that way. I know that I have in the past really just only blogged about, oh, here's a site I've just launched. Everyone's like, that's very nice, but I've already got a site, thanks, bye. I'm not going to read your blog anymore. So I think, you know, you have to really plan it out and have to think about what's going to engage people.
So like topical posts, like advice for new brides, hair tips, planning for the wedding, that kind of, that's definitely, it's a little bit more difficult for photographers to create that content, but you're right, they should be. Because that one.
The best tip I can do, I give to people is say, think of your blog like a weapon of an incredible way to build relationships in your kind of community of professionals. So in your town, you know, or city, you want to be going and interviewing the top 5 wedding planners in the city and asking for their #1 tip. So if that was me, if I was a wedding photographer, I'd be writing a blog post that say here are the top 5 wedding planners in Nashville or whatever, and that'd be great because that's helpful to everyone. The wedding planners are going to be very flattered. No one's going to say, no, don't include me on your blog post about the top 5 wedding planners. Of course I won't give you a tip, and don't come and take my picture and make me look all nice. See, no one is going to say that. So you've got this incredible set of resources from people who have wedding dress boutiques to florists, you know, top 5 floral trends, 5 best wedding florists in the city. You know, if you go down that route, you're going to win an incredible amount of friends. You're going to be seen as a trusted expert. You're going to build your networking circle really organically whilst finding something to write about. You know, you don't have to win a Pulitzer for it. You just have to write a nice paragraph that said, I had a great day on Tuesday. I went to visit this person who is one of the top 5 wedding planners. They told me this. Here's a nice picture of them. Boom, you're done. A nice short blog post, but, you know, almost writes itself. You don't need to be a literary genius to write these things. You just have to get the facts out and be nice about people, and they're going to be sharing that. So, you know, involving other people in your blog is a really great way to get your content shared and be seen as a resource that people will come back to again and again as well.
That's the thing. People don't like things that are too salesy either, you know, so I think you need to kind of do it in a way that is subtle as well. But to give you guys a bit of background on what I've been doing recently, and Melissa, you started doing a lot of great blogs as well, and Levi heads up a lot of the blogging for us on Engage. What I've done in my wedding business was I hired actually this girl who used to write for a bridal magazine, and she now writes like 1 blog a week for the blog, just so that it's not always like, hey, I did a wedding and this sort of thing. So what's like, for example, one of the posts is about like basically she interviews a vendor and gets information from a vendor. One is top tips. One is like style advice, which she writes under like as a guest blogger, because it definitely is obviously not written by a man. You know, so it's definitely very female-led. And then there's another one which is kind of like a wedding day story where she interviews a bride and they talk about their day. And what is really incredible, actually, what's happened, like one of the blog posts was in regards, trying trying to remember which one it was, but I remember like a couple of the blogs, like we blogged about a certain subject, and then that day, within an hour or two, we had an inquiry about something to do related to that subject of the blog. So you can see that it makes a very real impact if you're answering the needs of those people. So loads of questions. I'll keep going here, okay? Matthew Rycraft, he said, what's your thoughts on thin content? I've recently been told that small articles, even just mentioning keywords, or when someone mentioning your brand will get picked up by Google, and Google will then, well, he didn't finish his point there, but what he's saying is, what's your thoughts on thin content? On thin content?
Thin? I don't know about thin.
What he's saying is maybe just small articles that just even mention keywords, even, or when someone's just mentioning your brand, rather than kind of something which has maybe got a lot of content there.
Yeah, I don't think there's any risk in creating too many very short, very to the point blog posts or Facebook statuses or whatever that just say, they only say what you need to say without fluffing it up with a lot of paragraphs. If that is what he means, I'm on board.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Perfect. Next question, Jessica Elise. Jessica said she has a show it hosted blog, but she feels that it loads quite slowly and not at all on mobile. Can you perhaps suggest why? Thanks. I don't know, Melissa, if you want to say that. Show it, actually, I have my site and Show It sponsor us on Engage as well. I found that it's been pretty fast. The mobile site is very fast for me. I don't know if you can maybe feed into that, Melissa.
Well, if she's talking about the new WordPress hosting that Show It includes in your subscription, it's fairly new, and I know that it's dedicated WordPress hosting with really fast servers, and that they also have built-in kind of caching system. So if hers isn't loading correctly, first of all, I'd double and triple check her image sizes, run them through things like JPEG Mini, make sure they're as light as they can be. Sometimes if you've got a design which has a big header image, you don't realize you've done it, but you can accidentally have uploaded like an 800 kilobyte or a megabyte image without really realizing it, and there's lots of really good image optimization tools to run those through. If you've done all of that and checked all of that, then just jump online with the support guys that Show It, and they will check. They will do a speed test, see if there's any large items which are clogging things up. You know, I've just literally done a launch today of a Show It blog, and it's loading super fast. So they're so helpful. Just jump on the chat with them and get them to run a test for you.
Yeah. What was the name of that resizing tool you mentioned there?
It's called JPEG Mini, jpegmini.com, and there's a free version where you can just test it out online, and it basically doesn't resize it in terms of dimensions, but it takes a lot of the unneeded information out without compromising the quality. And I'm just...
What size would you say is kind of a good guideline for the images on your site and on your blog, do you reckon?
Well, it's really hard with Retina screens because, you know, people are now feeling they have to upload upwards of 2,000 pixel wide images to cope with Retina. I'm kind of, for a full width resizable website like the Engage site, I'm kind of loading 1,650 pixels wide, and that seems, but I'm running everything through something like JPEG Mini. It's got really hard.
But like see with Blogstomp, you know, Blogstomp's quite good for resizing it. You have to set it up in terms of the sizes that you want, but it's just a push of a button and it's done. And so it's quite useful. We've got loads and loads of questions, guys, so I'm going to keep putting them through you thick and fast, okay? So Jerry Campbell asks, how often should you change the images on your website gallery?
As often as you have good images.
What was that, Levi? Sorry?
As often as you have good images to share.
Okay, great. Melissa?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people... I can't remember who it is. It's one of my clients who's really savvy about this. She keeps a special folder on her desktop, and whenever she's finished processing a wedding and she's doing the blog, she picks out one or two and just sticks it in there, and then at the end of each week she goes and updates the front page of her website. Because it's a nightmare when you have to go back through, like, say, 10 weddings and think, oh, I remember there was a really good one there, but I can't remember where I put it, and now I've got to go back and find it. She just has got into the habit of dumping the best ones in a folder all ready to go.
Cool. Well, it's kind of interesting. I've started outsourcing my editing now to Shoot.edit. Again, they're sponsoring us at Engage as well. But one of the things that's quite interesting is that you download their catalog to use in Lightroom, and on the left-hand side, when you click in collections, it has like a range of different collections. Like, for example, I can just kind of tell you. So yeah, so there's like a folder called My Marketing, and one of those is vendor images, portfolio images, blog images, Facebook images, 2 bright lights, Pinterest, you know, so that's actually a great idea to have within your Lightroom catalog a folder that you can just fire those into straight away. So that means that when it does come to marketing, it's going to make your job a lot easier. Okay, so we message here from a question from Peter Grimble. Peter asks, any tips for a good Twitter strategy? Facebook seems fairly easy in comparison, but getting a Twitter following seems harder. Maybe we can just ask that to Levi there. So Levi, any tips for a good Twitter strategy?
To increase the number of followers, it's either the kind of classic slow organic route where you try to post interesting things, and Twitter is all about telling a very small story, sharing an opinion, a blurb, a little quotable bit of nonsense. So far, there's 16 billion tweets that have been shared, or trillion, or 73 quadrillion. 17 of them actually mattered. But the point is to say something that's like catchy. Oh, that's interesting, and I might want to share that or favorite it. And that's a slow way to build an audience. There are faster ways, one of which is just to follow everybody you think is interesting and follow everybody you think might follow you, and that's tedious, and it takes a lot of time. And I kind of like a balance of those two. The third option is becoming less readily available, but there are software devices out there that can actually go follow everybody who follows someone that you think the followers should follow you. And programmatically follow them, and then if they don't follow you back, unfollow them. And I really like that approach, but you have to be a little bit techie to do it. But it is a good way to build a substantial following, because if someone follows you, you're more inclined to follow them back than you are inclined to follow someone you have never heard of.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I think I followed by President Obama, but again, I think that he's taking that approach that everybody will follow him back. Pretty much.
Right. Well, he mentioned you last time we talked.
Yeah, I'm sure. What are the things that, let me pop back to you for a sec, Melissa. What are the big questions that people tend to have for you? You know, what are the things that you get asked again and again from people?
I think people just get a bit lost in the whole design process, because I think when you start a business, it's really exciting, and you look for the domain name and you name your business, and then you want to get your logo done, and people tend to start off with a logo only, and then they don't quite know how to build on that, and so they add some elements to it, and it looks okay, but they realize it didn't really kind of come together cohesively. It just kind of evolved, and then they have to build a website with this kind of collection of elements which they're not entirely convinced all works together. And then they just get really down about it, and then they put things off. They think, well, I'll go and market myself a bit harder once I've sorted out how I look. And I think that's kind of the thing that I see people. I know that's not really answering the question. You asked what people ask me, but that for me is my biggest challenge, is convincing people that your brand and your website will never be perfect. So don't wait. You know, there's a dozen things I need to change about my website, and it doesn't stop me from blogging and going out there and doing trade shows and looking for business and promoting what I'm trying to do. Because and I can give you a really good example. 3 or 4 years ago, I worked with Zach and Jodie Gray, who are totally lovely, and they live just around the corner from Levi, and not in Nashville, as he told me, just round the corner. But they're so lovely, and they were really, really well known when I worked with them, and they had a very well known logo, and they live launched their new site and their new brand on Creative Live, and I got thousands of emails. It was just kind of this craziness, but every single person was saying, if you could do that for me, I know that everything will be okay. But I think they were kind of missing the important point was that they were already on Creative Live with a brand that they weren't happy with. They didn't let it stop them from going out and promoting themselves and saying, we are the best wedding photographers out there. And I think that's kind of the thing that I see most people struggling. And I think it's a shame, because there's always something big on your to-do list, like learn how to use a studio management software like Blue, or master off-camera Flash, or redo your website, or you'll never get it all done because you're just one person mostly. So you just got to crack on with it and don't let it get you down. It's never.
And you know what? There's always a never-ending list of things to do. Like we love Lightblue. They introduced this new feature that you can do the invoicing, and we were looking forward to it forever. But it's like it's on a list, which is a huge list of things that we're kind of getting to. And we've made a huge commitment actually this year that we're going to look after our clients first. And we made a decision a few months ago that instead of constantly, because we're doing a lot of marketing, but instead of constantly marketing, we decided that the number one priority was number one to look after the customers, which I think for us we started, not that we got lost in too much, but we were always constantly maybe getting blog posts out to the detriment of getting images to clients as soon as we could do. What about yourself, Levi? What are the things that people ask you very often?
Yeah, I want to throw a little extra bit on Melissa's comment, because that is something that I'm not an images guy. I'm a words guy, and so I talk to people whose logo isn't where they want it. Their branding, it's not perfect, and none of ours is. No one's is. That should not. First off, it shouldn't slow you down. Second off, psychologically, it shouldn't like downgrade your confidence to be like, oh, I'm not tall enough, I'm not pretty enough, my nose is too big. I have a very large nose. I'm comfortable with this. But these are things that aren't perfect, and that's awesome. Because you, as the photographer, you're the person, you're the guy, you're the girl. Your logo isn't you. It's just a little arrow that points that says, have coffee with this person. Have coffee with me, and let's start a conversation. So don't let any of that nonsense slow you down. Also, if your branding isn't perfect, put that in the plan to have a professional polish that up for you. We know people. But still, go out there and get more clients. Blog, share, have coffee, launch your business, promote yourself. I think it's really interesting in interacting with an international audience, because Americans we are brash and brazen, arrogant. We do not lack confidence. In talking to the UK Irish photographers, there's a crisis of confidence that needs to be remedied just by looking in the mirror and saying, I like this guy.
Yeah, that's how you have to start every day from now on. I like this guy in the mirror, okay? Yeah, I think you're right. There's definitely a lot of cultural differences, and for us, I think people are a little bit more. It's not necessarily that they're maybe not as confident, but we're not as out there in terms of putting ourselves out there. Maybe, perhaps. I don't know. What do you think, Melissa? Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think also there's that fear when you first start a business that no one's listening and you're going to look like a bit of a fool. Like if you do a Facebook post and no one leaves any comments, or you blog and no one comments, or you've got no mates on Twitter. I think that's where it's really good. What is good is I've noticed photographers are really awesome at being in Facebook groups, and I know that's really detrimental to all of our productivity, but I also see some great friendships forming where people say, I'll help you on Twitter, come and join me and I'll introduce you to some people. So use the networks that you've got, and together we can all not get over our collective British shyness and do it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's Facebook groups are great. And obviously, we've got an engagers group if anybody wants to join up in there as well. And there's always a lot of stuff going on there. But listen, everybody feels like that, though, don't they? Like I think everybody, no matter where you're at within your career, everybody has that kind of confidence thing. But we'll get there together. And back to a few questions that we had here. Lynette Brown, she asked how to answer this question. What makes me different, and how right from the first contact with a potential new client, how best to explain how I'm different?
I want to jump on that real quick. One thing that Engage has hammered on is rock a niche. Your niche. I don't know how you say that over there, but over here we say niche. I spent some time with some photographers last weekend who, it's the classic example of, we're wedding photographers. We shoot weddings for people who would love getting married and having a wedding. Also, we shoot babies, pets, families, and farm animals. It's like, dude, okay, I get that you're young and ambitious and you literally shoot anything you'll get paid for. I don't mind you taking those jobs, but I want you to define your niche with words and with images in such a way that when I'm going to have a rooftop wedding in downtown Chicago or London or wherever cities are, I think, who specializes in rooftop weddings? This guy. You need to have, 5 words that when anyone thinks any of those words, they think of you. So, Melissa, what do you think?
I'm obviously someone who started out designing. The first website I ever did was for a funeral directors, and the second one was for a pet shop. I believe you can still see them somewhere, but I'm not going to tell you where you can find them. But I was lucky enough to specialize through an old friend from university who came down, who was a photographer, and said, "Hey, my website's horrible." I was like, "Wow, it's really horrible. Let's fix that." And, through referrals, within a year, I was pretty much only working with photographers. And all of a sudden, that you develop this incredible specialist knowledge, that there isn't a proofing system I don't know or haven't tried. And, I know how prospective clients browse websites for photos. And suddenly, that makes you the person that people want to work with. And, it's great to position yourself as the expert. And that kind of comes back to what we were talking about before, building trust through your blog by reinforcing that you are an expert at this specific thing. It might be 5 things. It might be rooftops, barns. It might, but you need to be talking about these things that you do really well. I completely agree. But Levi, can I ask you a question? You were just talking about the 5 words thing. What do you think about all this kind of thing where people have the 3 words to describe them? Lots of photographers do that who've been through kind of mentoring and a lot of who've worked with the amazing Jeff Jokum, who I love, but you'll see people have got 3 words to describe and it'll be like, passionate, exciting, whatever. And I always worry that 3 words isn't enough. I'm kind of conflicted about that.
Well, right, because you're going to pick 3 adjectives. You're going to say fresh, creative, energetic. It's like, that's great. I think those are, it's fine to define yourself with adjectives. I think that's probably helpful, but that is actually a different thing than defining your market niche. It's not the same thing. It's a different conversation. So clever descriptors are wonderful, but they don't tell me when I have a big family wedding that's going to be in a vineyard that I'm going to say family wedding photographer, and who's going to come up? Fresh and creative is not going to come up. So I want something that actually, it defines me. And I realize we're different because you and I are not photographers out there trying to define ourselves. But Donal, what's your niche, bro?
Yeah, my niche. I had a niche, but I itched it. Oh, that sounded wrong. I believe. I actually believe in the 3 words. I really like them. I mean, the first time I heard of it was, Jasmine Star. She's fun, fresh, fabulous. I think it's different now. It's something else. But I do have my 3 words, and I think it's really useful. And I do a lot of mentoring where I encourage people to think of 3 words, because I think even from the point of view of looking at your portfolio and curating your portfolio, does it fall within those 3 things? So everything starts to look within the same sort of framework. So for me, it's been incredibly useful, actually. Just talking about a niche or a niche or whatever, we've made a decision that we're going to engage a little bit more on photographers, because originally we talked about kind of creative entrepreneurs, but we want to make sure that we're really serving people in the best way possible. And I had coffee with Jared Bauman from Shoot.edit in Vegas, and Jared was saying, if I go onto your Facebook page and I see some stuff about photography and about Photoshop and design, and then all of a sudden I see something about knitting, a course on knitting or something like that, perhaps it's maybe not as interesting to me. So yeah, I'm a big believer actually in sort of rocking a niche. Definitely. Loads and loads more questions. Okay. Gemma French. Gemma says, I want to stand out as a full service studio. How is it how's the best way to communicate this, through a website or on social media? Whoever wants to chip in with that one. So she wants to define herself as a full-service studio. That's kind of the opposite from kind of rocking a niche as such. So how's it best to communicate that through a website or on social media?
Well, if by full service she's meaning, you know, right through to beautiful products and wall art, and I'm guessing that's very much part of it. I think you have. Do you know who does this really well? Do you know the beautiful product HH Boogie? The beautiful boxes. I was lucky enough to work with them on their brand and their current site a couple of years ago, and they tell their whole story really well through text, through video. You're in no doubt about the number of craftsmen that thing passes through before you get it. It's beautifully done, and they're a really good example of how to make sure they document every kind of part of the story. And the other people who do this really well is Queensberry Albums, who have their site has the whole backstory, all about the family, all about the different sections of the business, the ways it can help your business. And when you want to kind of convey really amazing service from start to finish, I think you sometimes have to look outside the other photographers' websites and look at businesses who are doing that really well, who are really good storytellers, because I think that's at the heart of kind of communicating the whole full service approach.
I guess question.
If she shoots dogs, children's, babies, weddings, then I don't know.
Right. Well, maybe the niche should be about the capability of the staff within the space. We've got a great, multi-use studio here in Nashville called Silverlight, and they shoot like album covers for Taylor Swift and models for clothing brands and anybody you want to shoot in the studio. They've got a corner of their studio that will accommodate that. They've got this brilliant, gigantic infinity wall, and then these other really creative spaces. So I would highlight the unique features of the space, and maybe show if I'm understanding full service. We're saying whether you have a kid on a tricycle, you want to promote the tricycle, or the kid, you can shoot it in this space. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Sounds like it.
So, highlight the space, man.
Yeah, okay, cool, perfect. So another question here, we've got a question. They're coming in thick and fast. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. And we're going to make this a monthly occurrence. Obviously each time we'll have different guests, and we'll be talking about different stuff as well. Yeah, just want to say thanks again to Levi and Melissa. If you guys are good, we'll answer a few more questions here. Robin Morgan, Robin asks, Robin's from Cat's Wedding Cinematography and also Little Giant Films. So Robin asks, can you ask about two brands, run two sites, or have one with two big sections? Melissa, maybe you could.
Yeah, I wrote a blog post about this the other day on the Design Space. If you want to go and have a look, it was the case for or against having a separate commercial site, but a lot of those same arguments apply. This is the other thing that people ask me all the time. I think it's quite a simple answer. If you're effectively saying I've got two niches or niches, what are we going to do about this? We're going to have to agree on a pronunciation.
Definitely got to itch. This is itch.
Is that right? Am I supposed to be saying niche?
It's niche in America, and it's niche over here.
Let's say you've got two specialisms. I think you have to decide if one of your specialisms is negatively impacting the other and it's preventing you from getting work, then I think you have a case for it. And I have a really good. Excuse me a moment. It's Apple. Everything rings, doesn't it? There we go.
Oh, Levi, is it?
That wasn't me.
That would have been hilarious. I'll give you a really good example. Somebody I know who is an equine photographer. He does things like weddings amongst people who ride horses and children and their ponies. But he also shoots a lot for equine, like things like the Cheltenham Post and the Horse and Hound. And journalists don't take him seriously when they land on his site and there's a picture of a bride on a pony. So he made the decision to separate those two out. So, a news desk editor does not want to wade through a homepage with a beautiful, they want to go straight into, here's what I do kind of thing. So if it's actively damaging your other part of your business, I have quite a few clients who are perhaps in communities where things, sorry, wow, someone's really keen to get hold of me.
Okay, well, we'll shoot over to Levi here for a little sec, okay? Oh, Levi's on the phone there, okay. Well, he's only pretending, I think. Well, we had just to kind of back to a different point here. We did have two questions from Matthew, and I wanted to return to Matthew Rycraft's question that he had earlier on. When Matthew talked about the thin content, Levi, he talked about articles with just 150 to 250 word posts. And he said that some people believe that Google doesn't really value them and that they need to be about 1,000 words. And within the small articles, rather than deep linking, it's more about just mentioning the brand or keyword, and Google will still value it. What's your thoughts there?
He's right. The 1,000-word thing, I don't know that to be true at all. 300 is kind of a good benchmark number for SEO legitimacy. Because what Google's trying to figure out is how to write an algorithm that programmatically can absorb a piece of internet content and determine if it's BS and it's just link bait and they're just trying to fool the Google bots, or if it's real and they're looking for like organic sentence structure and natural language speech patterns. They're trying to read it and they're getting smarter. So as long as you're writing it yourself and it actually says something, just say something brief when you have time, say something long when you have time. My point is always keep talking. And Melissa spoke earlier about writing blog posts that are not necessarily this is what I photographed, and this is the family, and this is the pony, and this is the bride. And that's brilliant. I love that. So if you do it with 200 words and 3 photographs, I think that's better than not doing it.
Okay, great. Okay, guys. So, any further questions or anything you guys want to share that's kind of going on right now, or anything that you feel people?
Well, I would just say my big thing over the last few weeks has been Mobile-mageddon, as they're calling it. Just making sure that your website is. There's been a bit of kind of Google panic because Google made this announcement that they were going to start using mobile accessibility and mobile kind of suitability and compatibility as a ranking factor. But you don't need to completely panic because they can't index all the they can't start doing this with every single website in the world immediately. It only happened last week, so don't get into a kind of complete thing about it. But make sure it's on your agenda. And if you're using something like ProPhoto, you can switch on the mobile version. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes to configure. It's not difficult. If you've got a responsive site, just make sure all the pages look good and there's no broken links or anything making it look odd on mobile. And do get that on your agenda because it is going to start making a difference.
Yeah, great. We did actually have a question earlier on. I saw there. I'm not sure now just who asked it, but somebody asked earlier on. Any thoughts for the best way to kind of embed or use video throughout your site? It's us this time, sorry. Yeah, so any thoughts there in regards to sort of the use of video? Because video is huge, and one thing that I noticed, because a lot of times it autoplays it now on Facebook as well. So any thoughts there, maybe Levi, and how to kind of use it through social? Do you think video is the way forward rather than sort of text-based content, or does it need to be kind of a cocktail of different types of content, if you will?
I love diversity. Also, I love words. I'm a writer. I'm a reader. So my opinion is going to be heavily biased in favor of well-written stuff. But at the same time, video typically involves well-written stuff, a curated script that makes sense. The thing that we need to realize is Facebook has now supplanted YouTube as the #1 platform for viewing videos. So if you have video content that's worth sharing, load it like native to Facebook, actually upload the video to Facebook, and then when knuckleheads are scrolling through their Facebook feed on the bus, train, in their car, on their couches, they're going to see your stupid video, and it's going to start to play automatically, and they're going to talk, and turn on the volume, and then there you are. You're being broadcast into their minds, which is what we all want as brands. I love it.
I'm not a big fan of autoplay video on a homepage, though. I think that's really intrusive.
No, that's not classy.
Yeah, okay. I found a really cool tool actually for. Well, I think this is cool. The other day, it's called FlipJam, I seen I seen somebody that I know using it on their Facebook page called Flip Jam, and what it does is it's kind of like a slideshow of the images, you know, from the wedding. So when you're scrolling down through the feed, it starts flipping through the images. You know, it looks quite cool, you know, as a marketing tool. So I must get a chance to download it and have a go with it. Guys, thank you so much. Melissa, thank you so much for your time. We know that you're an incredibly busy person. You know, obviously you're there with the design space at the moment. In terms of what's kind of coming up, or what can people expect? You seem to be releasing a lot of new designs and things as time moves on.
I'm branching out a little bit in that I think I've seen a big upturn in people wanting designs for responsive sites. So I'm converting nearly all of my designs into a third platform, so not just Shirt and Pro Photo, they'll pretty much all be in a responsive format for Divi as well, which is a fantastic kind of drag and drop responsive page building theme. The Engage site's built with it, we love it. And I'm also releasing 2 e-courses this summer, which will take you step by step how to build your website from start to finish, and also how to kind of prepare for and build a brand. So I've been working really hard on those, and I'm very excited.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So people can check out the design space, and there's lots of stuff going on there. So thanks for joining us, Levi. What's going on in your world? Where are you kind of at? And obviously you do consultancy and things like that. So people need help writing content or blogging or whatever it may be. You're the man.
Maybe I am. Yeah, we started out working primarily just with brands, with companies that market in the photography space, but we have since branched out and are offering services to some really cool photographers. We're ghostwriting, so obviously we can't tell you who they are, but if you come across a photographer's blog and you're like, wow, well written, that may or may not have been us. So
you're actually not even joking about that, because there's been quite a few times that I've you know, found out somehow that you're actually doing sort of things behind the scenes for different companies. So it's quite interesting. But great. Okay, thank you very much, Levi. Great, thank you for joining us. It's been amazing to have you all the way from Nashville. And we like your light background. We've had some comments about your background as well, actually. In terms of Engage, what we have coming up over the next little while, if you guys want to check it out, our next kind of live class is with me on the 2nd and 3rd of June on social media, and we have lots of different guests coming on, including the guys from possibly the guys from 3XM, and Levi's going to be joining us, and so that's an exciting 2 days of a live course. On the 23rd of June, we're going to be joined by the incredible Brett Florence. His course is called What Women Want. Okay. Quite an interesting one. So, What Women Want with Brett Florence. So, everybody has seen Brett speak before. He's incredible to hear. So, it's going to be a really exciting day with Brett. So, hopefully, you guys can check it out. We'll be back next month with a hangout. We have a new team member joining the team on the 18th of May, and we'll introduce you to our new kind of marketing guru, head of marketing then, so he's going to be on the hangouts. So next time, hopefully, we won't have any technical problems. We still have the group on Facebook. What we'll do is we'll post the links to the content that Melissa talked about as well and post it into that group on Facebook. So if you want to access those blog posts, you can check that out. Any more questions, if you have them, post them in the group, and we'll do our best to answer anything else. But for now, thank you so much for engaging and joining us, and we look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.